As I become advanced in age, I realize that some of life's mysteries are best left unsolved. Things such as, are aliens real? How do magnets work? And is Grandpa Beck actually a person and or a real grandpa? But there is one thing I can tell you, is Reign of Dragoness any good? Let's find out. Reign of Dragoness is a hand-shedding game for 3 to a whopping 8 players. Players will receive a hand of 13 cards, and your goal is to get rid of all of those cards in your hand. You will gain 3 points at the end of a round, or a challenge as the rulebook calls it, if you get rid of all the cards in your hand. Now once that happens, that challenge or round is over, and then the player with the least amount of cards left in their hand receives 2 points, and then the player with the next least amount of cards in their hands will score 1 point. And the goal is to have the most points after 5 rounds or challenges. Review copy provided by the wonderful people at Grandpa Beck Games. And each game comes with a recipe card. Click that subscribe button. Setup is quite simple. Consult this chart here to see if you need to remove any cards from the deck prior to gameplay. Then once you've removed any cards, you simply shuffle the deck and deal out 13 cards to each player. Depending on the player count, there will be up to 8 clans, or suits, as I like to refer to them as, that you will be playing with. And these cards are numbered 1 to 12. And once players have received their hand of 13 cards, the player with the weakest card in their hand does start the round. And their pattern that they set has to include that card. And what do you mean by setting the pattern? During the course of the game, a player will play either a run or a set. A run will consist of 3 to 5 cards in numerical order, say a 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. A set will be 2 to 5 matching cards of the same number, like a 2, 2, 2, or a 3, 3, or a 4, 4, 4, 4. You get the idea. And when you make these runs or sets, you just ignore the different clans or suits. And then once a player has set the pattern, going around the table, the players have the opportunity to try to best or beat that pattern. However, they do have to stick to the pattern that was set with the challenge. So if you played 3 cards in a run, in order to beat it, you do still have to play 3 cards in a run. But the highest card has to be higher than what was previously played. So say a player played a 1, 2, 3, the next player could maybe play a 2, 3, 4, as long as the highest card in the run is higher. Now, you can play cards that are the same number because each suit or clan in the game has a strength, and this is depicted by the number of gems on the side of the card. So a player could play a 1, 2, 3 to beat a run of 1, 2, 3, as long as their 3 has more gems on it than the 3 that was played previously, which is kind of a neat concept in a card game, that there's really never any ties anywhere in here because all the suits have a strength. That's kind of a rule in a design that you don't see a whole lot in card games. So say the challenge going around the table is a run of 3 cards, 1, 2, 3. Now if I play something higher, say a 2, 3, 4, I can beat the challenge, and then going on, the next player has to beat that. Or players must pass, thus removing themselves from the challenge. Unless a player should play a revive card. More on that later. But play will continue like this around the table until only 1 player is left. That player wins the challenge, those cards are discarded, and that player sets the pattern for the next challenge. So maybe I'll play a 7, 7, 7, 7. So maybe the next player then plays 4 of a kind, but they're higher, so they beat it, a 9, 9, 9. So just because you can beat a current challenge doesn't always mean that you should strategically, because maybe it's a low set, maybe a 2, 2, and you could definitely beat it with your 9, 9. However, you happen to have 3 or 4 9s in your hand, such as this individual here. So it might be worth to just go ahead and pass, removing yourself from being able to beat the challenge. Yeah, it kind of sucks you don't get rid of any cards now, but if you're able to win a smaller challenge though, and then you get to become the one who sets the challenge, you throw down those 4 9s, and it's pretty unlikely someone's be able to beat those 4 9s. However, someone could, as we mentioned before, play this revive card. What the revive card does is it resets the numeric value on that challenge. However, the challenge does remain the same. It would have to be the same number of cards, in this case 4, but it resets the value, so you could play like 4 1s or 4 2s, something like that. And in addition to the revive cards, there are some other special cards. Some of them being Paige, she is a wild, a 1 through 8, and there's a, it's in here somewhere, and there is a squire that is is a wild 9 through 12. So those two cards will kind of help you gain a little more flexibility for creating these runs, sets, or challenges, whatever you want to call them. Remember how these dragon cards all have strengths measured by jewels on the side of the card? Well, these two don't have any jewels and they're actually pretty weak. So they cannot beat any sets if they are the highest card in the run. And similar to them, but even better though, is the knight. He is the most flexible of them all. Well, I don't know if he's actually flexible, but I mean, he can be used as a 1 to a 12. However, he is not weak like the other two, and he actually beats all ties. And he doesn't look anything like Jon Snow. And there's another special card, the Dragoness. Actually, the game's named after her, so she's actually pretty badass. She is a 13, the only 13 in the game, so she can only be used as a single card or the highest card in a run. If you play her in a run, ain't nobody beaten yet because she's a 13. And she's immune to the Revive card, so she's kind of a bad dragon bitch. And after 5 tournaments, or rounds as I like to call them, the game is over and the player with the most points is the victor. These are some nice quality cards. Like those. Wow. So that is Reign of Dragoness. I think this is a great little card game, so let's get the things that suck out of the way. The game does not come with any way to track the score, which is kind of bizarre, so I guess it's up to you to provide a pen and paper. Not a huge deal, but tokens or a score pad such as the one that comes in Skull King may have been nice. The theme here it's just pasted on, and it doesn't really feel like a tournament of dragons or whatever the theme may be. And although the reference cards are nice, they only give you 5, and the game plays up to 8 players. So yeah, it would have been nice to have 8 player aids. However, I mean, 5 is kind of enough to go around. But in what I like to think is maybe an admission of guilt, in the rulebook it says, sharing is caring, in lieu of providing you with 3 more reference cards. Actually, that last part I made up. It doesn't say that last part in the rulebook. But another minor issue too is some of the colors are kind of close, especially yellows and oranges and whatnot. So depending on your lighting situation, some players may have a difficult time seeing that at first. However, that issue is kind of mitigated by the different strengths of the different suits. So you can just look on the side and see how many gems that particular dragon has. So I guess it's not really an issue, but it's just something I wanted to mention in the review. But overall, I really enjoy this card game. It's very easy to teach. It doesn't outstay its welcome. I enjoy that you play 5 rounds, a set number of rounds. That's what you do. You play it, you see who has the most points, somebody wins, and you'll probably laugh, talk some trash, and then you'll just shuffle the cards and play it again. Because it really only takes about a half hour at most. The production value on the game, the card quality is excellent. All the Grandpa Beck games always have fantastic card quality, and their art is always really good too. And this game is no exception. The dragons look awesome on the cards. I'm not like a huge fantasy fan. I don't dislike it. I'm impartial to it, but although the theme doesn't come through in the game, I guess the theme is kind of cool, and the art in the cards is really, the box is a great size. It has a little divider. The cards fit in there nicely. The rulebook is nice and clear, and it is nice always having a game in your arsenal that isn't a party game that can play up to 8 players. This game, my favorite player counts are 4, 5, and 6 in this game. With that being said, I wouldn't shy away from playing this game with 3 or 8 players or 7 players. It's just, that 4 to 6 is kind of the sweet spot for it, but I would definitely rather play this game with 8 players than most party games. So take that for what it's worth. And I really like that design choice of all the suits being different strengths. I think that's pretty cool because you don't see that a lot in many games, where technically there are no 2 cards that are the same value. But I love games that are simple to teach like this one, but do provide interesting choices in almost kind of a push your luck type of way where you can beat that challenge that's out there, but maybe you don't want to beat that challenge because those cards that you would use to beat that challenge would kind of muck up maybe a large play that you could have later. However, you might be holding on to those 5 9s or whatever it is that you have in your hand, and you're like, man, I don't know, play keeps going around. I don't want to get stuck with all these cards in my hand. I need to get rid of some of these cards in my hand to try to win, so maybe I do need to break up those 9s and play 2 9s and hope that that challenge isn't beat by other players. Then I get to wipe it, then I get to set the next pattern for the next challenge. So while it is simple and you can teach anyone how to play, there are some valid strategies and there are some decisions to be made while playing the game. But this one is definitely staying in the Beards collection, and I'm going to add it to the other Grandpa Beck games I have. Giving this one a 3.5, definitely recommend this one. Check this one out. Click subscribe and then click here or wherever it pops up of a review of mine of another Grandpa Beck's game. Probably Toil and Trouble, that was a good one. Yeah, or I don't know. We'll figure it out in post, but just click on it. Watch more of my videos. They're great. I never really know how to end these things.